Okay, welcome back to members of 121 Community Church in Grapevine, Texas, and our ongoing study in the identity of the New Testament text by W.N. Pickering. This is our penultimate lesson. It'll be pages 159 to 179. We'll have one lesson after this, which will be the final 20 pages. The book ends on page 200. So this is our penultimate lesson, and we'll look at the task of trying to identify the original autograph text of Scripture. Let's go to block 1 and take a look at the section of Scripture in the Gospel of John that is considered a late addition, and that is the text dealing with a woman taken in adultery. When we try to identify the original wording, we must be biblical, objective, and reasonable. Underline objective for Pickering, with 80 to 90% attestation. And these texts should share a mosaic, share a general structure. History of transmission must be based on relationships of groups. Groupings and relationships supersede any quantity, any counting. We also presuppose God's purpose to preserve the text. We do, as Christians, posit that presupposition that God had as his purpose to preserve the text. Divine preservation of the text. Motives must be addressed and evaluated. Demonstrated groupings are emphasized by Pickering. There are three main streams of text, and they're labeled Manuscript 5, 6, and 7. Three main streams. M7 is the majority text. The Apocalypse has three streams of transmission: Manuscript AB, Manuscript C, and Manuscript DE. Manuscript C represents the majority text. Majority text representation in the text on the woman taken in adultery. It's John 7:53 to 8:11, the woman taken in adultery. There are 1,389 manuscripts that do include this section of Scripture in the Gospel of John. It reflects a very long line of preservation. It is not simply late addition. It is in a very large number of manuscripts. 1,389 manuscripts prior to the 9th century. In addition to this, which supports the majority text, we should also, Pickering says, take a look at the International Greek New Testament Project of 1948 and evaluate that critical contribution along with what we have posited already concerning the majority text. So let's go to the block 2 and the Uncial testimony of Family 35 is what Pickering calls it, the uncials that support the majority text. Now, the uncial text is a cursive Greek text, and that cursive script occurred around the 4th to the 8th century. However, Family 35, which is Syrian, represents an early 3rd century text, possibly going all the way back to the autograph scriptures. So Pickering wants us to look at the Syrian Uncial F Family 35 manuscripts. This family of manuscripts are independent and ancient. This particular manuscript being addressed here is held in Paris. It was located in the Antioch or the Aegean area. It represents Byzantine archetype. there is a Byzantine archetype. F35 leads back to the autographs. This refutes Hort's theory of recension. The Antioch manuscripts are not the result of recension. And we must examine Hort's theory in Block 3 after already looking at the text within the Gospel of John in Block 1 that supports the majority text and the cursive Greek manuscripts that support the majority text. Now, let's understand recension properly. Pickering says, yes, there is recension, but let's understand the concept of recension properly. Block 3. The definition is an editorial revision of a text. Hort proposed that the Antioch text was an editorial revision of the Alexandrian text. A recension of the Alexandrian text. An editorial revision of the Alexandrian text. Is the Syrian text a recension with Lucian of Antioch as the editor? And Pickering poses the question, or is there actually an Alexandrian recension of the Byzantine text? Alexandrian recension, the closest we have of an Alexandrian text type or archetype is Codex B or Codex Sinaiticus. No source text or archetype is discernible to give us an Alexandrian archetype. What about Byzantine recension? Family 35 does display a text type, but that does not mean recension. Family 35 falls within the Byzantine stream. We have 315 Byzantine manuscripts outside F35. Furthermore, all copies made at any one monastery were made from distinct exemplars. Little comparison took place between monasteries. Mount Sinai, where Codex Sinaiticus was discovered. The Alexandrian texts, however, are very distinct from each other. Sinaiticus varied significantly from Codex B. So the posited directive here in this lesson is, to put it very simply, Pickering says we must reject Hort's theory that the Syrian text is a recension, an editorial revision of the Alexandrian. In all probability, it's the other way around, because we have the very foundational support of the text in the Gospel of John, which is shared by 1,389 manuscripts, giving us a very long line of preservation and supporting the majority text of the Antioch or Asia Minor group. And then we have the cursive Greek manuscripts, the F35, that are representative of a Byzantine archetype. And Pickering says that does not mean recension. It means what it is. It means archetype. It means probably autograph copies and the ability to get closest to the autograph copies. And then we get the clarity in Block 3 of exactly what we mean by recension. And Alexandrian text types do not have an archetype. Codex B and Codex Sinaiticus disagree with each other, and they're the closest that can be arrived at, and they even disagree considerably. So we get excellent content here that really does reinforce this. This is chapter 7. It is the conclusion of the book. So we are drawing our very dramatic and powerful conclusions. Now Pickering is telling us that we have documentation to support a position for the majority text. We have the testimony of 1,400 manuscripts that include the supposed late scripture in the Gospel of John. We have 1,389 manuscripts that support that documentation. Then we have cursive Greek documentation in F35 from the Asia Minor area, the Aegean area. They all reflect a Byzantine archetype, which is the autograph, not a recension. It's the autograph, says Pickering. Therefore, recension is an editorial revision of the text. However, it is more likely, says Pickering, that the Alexandrian text are a recension, not the Byzantine. Very powerful first half of chapter 7, and giving us a better understanding of recension, I think, because archetype is not the same thing as recension. Because the Byzantine text reflected a Byzantine archetype, Pickering says that just means it reflects the autograph, not some editorial revision, but the actual autograph. And we have a much better chance of reaching the autograph through the Byzantine rather than the Alexandrian. Therefore, do not default to the Alexandrian, says Pickering. Do not default to the Alexandrian like the United Bible Society does, like Westcott and Hort did. Do not default to the Alexandrian. Instead, we have early manuscripts in the Byzantine, and we have manuscripts that support a majority archetype, and they reflect the autograph, says Professor Pickering. So that's going to give us the first half of chapter 7, pages 159 to 179, on reconstructing the original text. And we will conclude our book. Our final lesson will be the next lesson. It'll be 180 to 200, the final 20 pages of the book. But this wraps up our penultimate lesson.